Okay, so number one, we have an array of int called ages with these values. Next, I programmatically got the value of the last element in the array by using ages.length minus 1 and subtracted the first value of the array, which is in position 0. I added a new age to the array and confirmed that the code still worked, which is 10. Next, I used an enhanced for loop to iterate through the array. To calculate the average, I first defined a double variable and then used plus equals, which will add all of the ints together. Lastly, I took num and divided by ages.length, which is the length of the array. That gave me the average. Number two, here we have an array of string called names with these names in it. To calculate the average amount of letters per name, I used an enhanced for loop. Defined a double variable, sum of letters, since the average will likely not be the whole number, and use plus equals names.length, then defined a new variable, avg, which is calculated by taking the sum of the letters divided by names.length. Then I use another enhanced for loop to loop through the array again. I use name2.concact all names in the array, which will concatenate all the names in the array, and printed each name plus a space. Number three, to programmatically access the last element in the array, you will want to use array.length minus 1. Number four, to access the first element in an array, you want to use array in position 0. Number five, okay, now we have a new array of int called name lengths. This is a for loop iterating over previously created string array names. In order to get the length of each name in the names array, I need to use less than names.length to make sure we iterate through the entire array. I points to index in names array and sets value of name length to the same index in name lengths array. Number six, to calculate the sum of all of the ints in name lengths array, I defined an int called sum, then used an enhanced for loop and used sum plus equals num2 to add all the elements in the array together. Number seven, here we have a method that takes a string and an int and returns a string. I used word, which is my string, to use word.repeat n being my int. This reads to return the string n numbers of times. Number eight, this takes two strings and combines them together to build a full name. The return is also a string, combining the first name and the last name along with a space between them too. Number nine, this method returns a Boolean expression and takes an array of int in order for it to return true if the sum of the ints in the array are greater than 100. I first defined an int variable called sum. I used an enhanced loop to iterate through the array and use sum plus equals to add all of the ints together, giving us the sum. Next, I use an if statement. If the sum is greater than 100, return true. Anything else will return false. Number 10. This is a method that takes an array of double, and since we need to return the average, I know that this will also return a double. First, we need to define the double variable sum. Next, I use an enhanced for loop and use sum plus equals num to add all the doubles together. To get the average, I return the sum divided by array.length. Number 11. This method takes two arrays of double and returns true if the average of the elements in the first array is greater than the average of the elements in the second array. In order to do this here, we know we need to return a Boolean result. I have multiple variables that I need to define, two for a sum and two for an average, one for each of the two arrays. I then use two enhanced for loops to iterate through each of the two double arrays and calculate the sum, and then translated that to the average by dividing the sum by the array or array2.length. Lastly, I used an if statement stating if the average of the first array is greater than the average of the second array, return true. If not, return false. Number 12, here we have a method that takes a Boolean and double and will return true if, which is also Boolean, it is hot outside, and if the money in your pocket is greater than $10.50. I use an if statement stating if is hot outside equals true, and if money in pocket is greater than $10.50, then return true. Else return false. 13. This method I chose to create is one that will return a string stating if a user is old enough to buy alcohol. This method will take an int called age and will return you can buy alcohol if the age is greater than or equal to 21, which is the legal drinking age in the US. If not at least 21 years old, it will return you cannot buy alcohol.